better. Hello, bud. Do you want to come do a Q&A with me? Oh, I need my phone. Do you want to ask the questions? Here, this is them. No? Okay. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today, I just wanted to kind of take it easy. It has been a crazy couple of weeks. Obviously, if you've been following the channel for a little while, you'll know that last week, or the week before, should I say, I was up in San Jose and we were doing the build on the truck and the Golf and Carrie's Tiguan. And then last week was all catching up. And then obviously there's been all kinds of crazy stuff happening in the world. And so I just thought, you know what, for today, let's just be mellow. Let's just hang out at the house. We'll do a Q&A, have a cup of tea. And yeah, let's just take a minute to pause, because I feel like I've been on the go with everything else that's been going on. It's all just kind of come to this big swirling vortex of stuff. And so when that happens, I like to just stop, take a breather, rethink how I'm going to move forward, and then execute that. That's where we're at. Today is a day just to breathe and plan out what we're gonna do for the next few weeks. So I put up a thing on my Instagram where I asked you guys to find me some questions that I could answer here on the YouTube channel. Now, we've done Q&As in the past about business, how I moved to America, about watches, about cars, all kinds of stuff. But this time I wanted to get a little bit deeper, a little bit more philosophical maybe, and really just kind of get into some of the questions that you guys had for me. And hopefully in you hearing these questions, it'll make you think about your answers to them. And who knows, maybe some of my answers might spur some thought for you or give you some kind of insight that maybe you didn't have already. Anyway, let's get into them. And so we'll start off with question number 1. Oliver Ken says, should I quit my boring corporate job to ride through Vietnam on a motorbike? Yes, 100%. Under the Cuff Official says, philosophical, would you rather have arms as long as your fingers or vice versa? Arms as long as my fingers, so short arms, or fingers as long as my arms, long fingers. Fingers as long as my arms. Picking your nose would be difficult, wouldn't it? When people say to be more confident, what does that mean specifically? It's so general. That's a great question, because it's very easy, isn't it, when people give you advice and they say, be more confident, be more outgoing, be motivated. They're very easy to say, but not particularly easy to action. And so I think for me, when people say to be more confident, the way that I feel about confidence is that it comes in many forms, right? You can be self-confident, so you can be confident in the way that you look. So your physical appearance may be the thing that gives you confidence, that allows you to go out in the world and be a more forward person because you are confident in the way that you look. You may be confident because you are an expert in your field. So, Diesel, do you mind? I'm trying to do a really thoughtful thing and you're there licking your nuts. So you may be confident because you are an expert in your field, right? So you are confident going into conversations with people about a specific topic because that is your area of expertise. What I feel about confidence is that it kind of comes from everything. My background as a child is in martial arts, and so I did martial arts from a very young age. It taught me self-confidence from a physical standpoint. I was able to protect myself. I was able to protect the people that I loved. It gave me that kind of, it stopped me needing to prove myself physically, right? You get a lot of people, men in particular, who feel like they need to show how tough they are in order to somehow give themselves validation. And I feel like when you do martial arts, hopefully it removes that from you, because you fight 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week. And so when it comes to a situation where there perhaps is the potential for an altercation, you'll always look for the way out of it that doesn't involve physicality. So I got my kind of base confidence from the fact that I was able to physically handle myself, which I think as a growing boy, that's something that's very powerful and very important. But then it also gave me confidence because I was able to lead a class. So I had to teach people. By compounding the stuff that I had learned, I was able to build my confidence in that by teaching others. Going to the question, when people say be more confident, I guess you have to look at the area in your life where you lack that confidence, whether that's self-confidence through your image, through what you know, through the fact that you may have had relationships in the past where you've been hurt or traumatized, and that stops you from being confident moving into a new one, and then work on that. So it is very broad when people just say be more confident. So I guess if that is the advice that's being given to you, perhaps ask those people, where do you see me being able to build my confidence? Like where do you see me not being as confident as I could be? And then start there. Adam 15 Wood says, what was the transition from the UK to the USA like? when did it become normal? So I've been here for 6 years. I actually just renewed my visa again, so I have another 3 years. So that is going to be, once this one's over, it'll be 9 years. I can't believe how quickly this last 6 years has gone, honestly, and how much things have changed. In terms of it being normal, it's weird. Obviously, I lived in the UK for 27 years. That was my normal. And that really that feeling hasn't followed me here. Like, I feel settled and I love living here, but I still feel like I'm living in another country. You know what I mean? Like, I'm English, I'm British, I'm from England, but I'm living in another country, even though this is now my home and, this is where my friends are. Obviously, having my family and my good friends from home back in England, there's always going to be that sort of pull or that feeling of being away from them, which I think is what truly stops me from feeling like America is totally my norm now. The number of things where I think a thought, then I think about how I'm going to say it, and then I have to translate it now into American. Certain words obviously are different here to in England, and if I said the English word, they wouldn't understand here necessarily. So it's easier for me to just translate them and say the American word. Things like freeway instead of motorway, parking lot instead of car park, parking structure instead of multi-story car park. Things like that. And so I feel like there's this constant battle in my head with how I'm trying to say things. And then when I speak to my friends or my family from home, I then have to translate back and use my English words because they'll think I'm a knob for using the American words. It's very interesting. It's almost like having to speak two languages. They're just very, very similar. But I would say that the UK or the US doesn't yet feel normal, but I do feel very settled here. As long as I have friends and family back in England, that is always going to remain the case. So I blocked out this person's username just because I don't think it's really appropriate. I don't want to say it on the channel. But they did ask you a good question. And they said, what would you say to someone who feels like their progress in life is slow? 19 years old in college, bored. That's a great question, because I think I've gone through my life with very lofty goals, and I've had these things that I want to achieve. And I've always felt like I'm sort of chasing that next goal or that next target, which is a good thing. That's definitely a good way, in my opinion, a good way to live. But there is the risk when you do that in thinking that you aren't getting to where you want to be quick enough. And so I think at 19, you don't have to worry, you're in college. That should be your target, is get through college, do as well as you can, and while you're there, start setting up for the next goal. But you're at where you should be. So it's very difficult to kind of say whether that's slow progress, because I'm 30, what am I now, 33, and there are things that I thought that I should have done by now that I haven't, but now that I'm here at 33, I know why I've not been able to do those. And so the 21-year-old me would be kicking himself to think that, by 31 you haven't done X, Y, or Z. But now that I'm at my age, I know that that isn't realistic. With age comes hindsight, and with age comes a broader vision of which you're able to formulate your ideas of what is reasonable, realistic, and what isn't. But then again, there are certain things that happen really quick that just happen. So my advice would be, you're 19, don't beat yourself up, enjoy where you're at now, have your goals, set your goals, and make sure they're realistic. And as long as you're on track to achieve those goals, I mean, realistically, I don't know what you would have wanted to have achieved by 19 that you feel like you're already making slow progress on, but just set yourself targets, and once you hit them, set the next one, and just keep leveling up. I've spoken about this in videos before, where I think about myself, because I'm very visual, almost like a computer game character, where you level up and you get to level 20 and then bloop, and then you're at level 21, but you're right back at the beginning. And then you have to level up on level 21, and then you go. That's kind of how I look at my goals and aspirations. And again, it comes from martial arts. You get your belt, it's the most exciting thing ever. You go back into the dojang, and then, well, oh shit, now I've got to work towards my next belt. So that was great, I enjoyed it, but we're moving forward. Cool Village Group says, how did you find the strength to do the things you needed to do to live the life you live now? So the number one thing that has allowed me to get to where I am now in life, in everything, in my career, in my personal life, everything, is the support of my mum, my nana, and my granddad. Those three people were key right from being a baby in getting me to where I am now. There was nothing that I could dream to do that they didn't have my full, or I didn't have their full support on. So again, I think I've spoken about this in a Q&A before, but like if I went home to my mum from school at 5 years old and we had an astronaut come into school, this is hypothetical, but an astronaut come into school to tell us all about being an astronaut. And I went home and I said, Mum, I want to be an astronaut. She would have said to me, no problem. What school do you need to go to? What qualifications do you need? How do we do it? Like, what are the steps to get you there? And she would have pushed me and been behind me the entire way. That mentality and growing up knowing that you have that support and that people believe in you that much is huge. If you have grown up with perhaps parents or an upbringing where that isn't the case, I can 100% see how that would lead you to perhaps not be as self-confident, going back to the first question, as you perhaps could be. What I'd say for that is how to overcome that is surround yourself with people that will be your biggest fan. Surround yourself with people that will support you to do that. Don't be afraid to fail, because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? It's a very cliche thing to say, but it's true. The best thing you can do is just take those little steps, just one foot in front of the other to get to where you need to be. And even if you don't make it, even if there's a failure, something like you don't quite get to where at least you are closer to it than you were when you started. And then you learn from those lessons, and then you start again and you try something else. And that is the key to it, is you just have to be consistent and just do the work, just one foot in front of the other. That's what kind of gives me the strength to do what I do now, is the fact that I know that I've got that support from my family, and that is part of me, that is in my core, that is who I am as a human being, is someone that has that self-belief, even if no one else around me does. Okay, really weird scenario, but perfect example. I was on holiday once years ago, and we're by the pool and they did like silly pool games. And one of them was they gave you a watermelon. You had to stand on the edge of the pool, like backwards, so you backwards to the pool, and throw this watermelon over your head into the pool. And they try to see who could throw it the furthest. They pull people out, and there's me, there's a couple of girls, there's another like younger guy, there's an older guy, and then there's this dude that comes out and he looks like a man mountain. This guy was huge, like no neck, just massive. I see this guy and I'm like, I can beat him. Like, even though this guy could literally lift me up with one hand, my mindset was unequivocally, I can beat him. I didn't beat him, but that's not the point. My mindset going into it was not, oh, I'm never gonna be able to do this because he's big and strong and, you know, can throw this further than me. My mindset was, I definitely can beat this guy. That was my deep-rooted gut feeling that I had. And when I didn't beat him, it didn't matter. And again, that kind of comes into the martial arts thing with like ego and being able to accept loss and kind of move on from it. And also the fact that it was throwing a watermelon into a pool, that was very inconsequential. But that's what I'm saying, is like, you need to get to that point where like that is your belief system, that anything you put your mind to, you can do. Rather go through life believing you can and then falling short sometimes, than believing you can't and never getting to where you want it to be. So I don't actually know how to pronounce this username, so I'm just gonna put it up on screen so you can see it. But this person says, how do I find out what I'm meant to do in life, career-wise? I'm 25 and completely lost. Again, this for me is, my answer is based on my experience and on what I would do in a situation where I wasn't sure what to do, because I've always known what I wanted to do. It's been different things along the way, but I've always had like a focus. It was like, I wanted to be a vet, and then I wanted to be a police dog handler, and then I wanted to be a marine biologist. And then I randomly started taking pictures and really enjoyed that, and then became a photographer, and then fell into making YouTube videos. So I've always had a focus at some point, and it's kind of weaved its way through my life. But if you don't know what you want, I would say at 25, you're still plenty young enough. I sound like an old man, don't I? You're plenty young enough to still be able to explore. And so I would say, sit down with a big sheet of paper and write down all the things you love. Things you love doing, just things that make you happy. In no order, just write them all down on a piece of paper. And then maybe pick the top 5 things that make you the most happy. And then draw lines out from them with jobs that are associated with those things. And see if any of those suit you, right? Because if you're completely lost now, it's a good start. Start at the basics, what makes me happy, and then go, how can I make money from it? And I guarantee you, most things even if you did want to be a butterfly catcher, that is probably someone's job to be a butterfly catcher professionally. I don't know how much it pays, but if you enjoy it, it doesn't matter. That would be my suggestion. Find what you love, see if there's a career industry around it, and then really start delving into that. Ben says, what the deciding factor for you to move to USA? The one thing that made you go, I'm gone. I remember sitting at my computer in my office, working on some photo edits or whatever in England, and it was pissing down with rain. My chair was here and there was a window right here. And I just remember the rain trickling down the window. It was gray. My house looked out over like a wooded area, a beautiful wooded area, but it was just the color palette out of my window was gray to like murky brown. And as a photographer and as a visual artist, that is not the type of color palette that I personally am very competent with working with. And so I was watching YouTube as well, and I think it was right, if it wasn't the same day, it was very close to when the Gymkhana video, it was Gymkhana 5, which was the one where he was in LA. And they shut down LA and he drove the Hoonicorn through the streets of LA. And I remember watching that, finishing the video, clicking spacebar, and just sitting back in my chair and going, I'm moving to LA. And it was always something that I wanted to. Like, if you're a long-term subscriber, you'll know that the reason that I first decided that I wanted to move to Southern California was the TV show The OC, which ironically was set around this area. I always knew that that was what I wanted to do, and it was always niggling in the back of my mind. And then that video was the moment where I was like, I've got to do it. And that was it. From that point on, I just put the steps into place and went out for the summer and figured it all out, and came back after that summer. I did 3 months out here, went back home, went home for Christmas, put in my visa application, and then by April I was back out, and that was it. I was living here. Taylor830 says, are you planning on settling down and having a family? Settling down, yes. Having a family, no. Obviously, I'm with Carrie, love her to bits. In terms of kids, they're not for me. I would much rather be cool Uncle Adam than have my own kids. I have Diesel, and I love him to bits, and he is perfect for me. It's not the responsibility or anything like that. I'm just really not a paternal guy. Jada Jordan, he has 2 little girls, and Brooklyn, his eldest, is an absolute darling. Like, I love spending time with her. She's, how old is she now? 3, I think? Yeah, I think she's 3. She's got such a funny personality, and she hangs out with us, and she's awesome. But I don't have any desire to have a kid of my own. And that's fine. What I found is that as I was kind of coming up through my 20s and saying that, people are like, oh, just wait. When you get out, you will. When you meet the right person, you will. And like, people put pressure on you, like you absolutely have to add to the population of this world to be fulfilled. And I totally disagree. Honestly, I don't mean to be morbid, but this world is not going in a great direction. I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole, but for me, I love being cool Uncle Adam, and I will have as many dogs and rescue dogs as I can possibly get my hands on. But for me, kids is a no. Settling down with Carrie, 100%. This question kind of follows on from that last one, and honestly is one of the reasons why this week I just wanted to kind of chill out. Swede031 says, what drives you to stay in the US after the shootings, women's rights being taken away, etc.? Obviously, anytime you start talking about anything that can be involved with politics, it gets kind of dicey. So this is not a political answer. This is just an answer from my heart. Obviously, what has happened with the shooting, the school shooting, and then the abortion rights, there is a lot in this country that needs to be fixed. There is a lot in this country that is to the core wrong, and unfortunately, I think we're so far gone in a lot of ways that it's going to be hard to come back from there. So with the shootings, absolutely horrific. I can't even begin to fathom how that affects the parents and the families and the teachers and everyone involved. And my heart goes out to every single one. And that isn't enough, but I'm not a lawmaker, so I can't do anything about it. The gun regulations in the US need to be massively rethought, and this is coming from someone that does own firearms. So I'm an English person where we don't have guns, that has come to the US, and I now legally own firearms. So I'm not anti-gun at all, not in any way, shape or form. What I am is anti how easy it is for people to get hold of a device that allows them to go out and do something like this. When you do your driver's license, you have to go and do a test and show that you're able to safely operate your vehicle. I think there are definitely things that could be implemented that would allow people to retain their right to own a gun, which I don't see as being a bad thing, but I think there are many ways to weed out the people that perhaps shouldn't have the guns, while still allowing all of those people that are reasonable, sensible, law-abiding gun owners to be able to have theirs. That's my kind of very general view on the thing. Like I said, I don't want to get into it because I don't want it just to become a complete shit show in the comments. That's not what this is about. The women's rights, the anti-abortion laws, I mean, it's just, I don't see how we're in 2022 where a table full of old, fat, white men can decide how women are able to look after their bodies. How, yeah, these men think that they can do. I mean, it's ridiculous to me. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say on those matters. I don't try to get into that kind of stuff because, like I said, that is not what this is. But as someone that is on a public forum that does put themselves out there, I do feel compelled to give you my thoughts on it, at least in a little bit, just so that you know where I stand. But I'm not interested in getting into it in the comments or anything like that because we all know how that goes. But to answer the question, what motivates me to stay here is because America is a brilliant country to live, and the lifestyle that I have here, that, you know, my bubble is a very nice, comfortable, safe, fun bubble. JP Luigi says, how do you feel about psychedelics? Do you think it plays an important role philosophical wise? Again, I have to be careful with what we can talk about on YouTube here, but the answer is yes. How do I feel about it? I feel very strongly and very positively. This is something that's very new to me. However, I am now familiar with psychedelics, specifically psilocybin. Oh my goodness. I'm at the very beginning of my journey with it, but it is phenomenal, and I am very excited about kind of seeing how over time it allows me to progress, because even in the very brief encounters that I've had, it has been quite honestly world-changing for me, and I think that you should all do your research on it as well if it's something that you are interested in, and yeah, just educate yourself, and maybe it's something that you will also feel positive about. So SST Gear says, what in life do you worry most failing? I think there's a lot of things, right? There's a lot of things in our life that we don't want to fail. We don't want to fail in business, we don't want to fail in relationships, we don't want to fail tests. For me, what am I most scared of failing? I'm scared of failing the people around, like the people that I love. I always want to be available emotionally and, you know, there to support in however that means. That doesn't mean support them in a time of need. That means support them when they do something great, and I can be there to cheer them on and compound that success. I want to be there for somebody emotionally when they do need help, or they need a shoulder to cry on, or they need some advice, or they want someone to go out to the pub with, you know, whatever that is. Like that, I think that is my biggest fear in life, or the thing that it's not a fear, I don't live in fear of it, but the thing that I would least like to fail in would be that. I always want to be the friend, the son, the boyfriend, you know, whatever, that shows up and that is able to be perceptive, understand your feelings, be available for you when you need me, and just, yeah, show up, I think is the best word, right? I never want to be focused so much on my own thing that I let the feelings and the needs of my loved ones go by the wayside. I'm gonna give that some more thought because I feel like there's a way for me to better articulate that, but yeah, you get the idea. But anyway, guys, that's it. That's all of the questions. Like I said, just wanted like a decompress. Sometimes I just feel like it's important to take a step back, get a bit of calm. Like I said, I've had a very hectic few weeks with a lot of stress, and then with everything that's happened again, you know, over here in the last few weeks, it just felt like I needed to take a break. So I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. I hope this was informative, interesting, entertaining to you. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on anything we've spoken about. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you aren't subscribed. We're very close to that 100,000. What else? Oh, Patreon, if you want to support the channel, help me continue to make videos and go on these adventures, you can sign up to Patreon and you can get 24-hour early access to these videos. Diesel, have you got anything else to tell anyone? Do you have anything to tell anyone? No? Just, I would like to go for walkies, please. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Remember, until then, don't know anything I wouldn't do. See ya. I couldn't do it all the way, so I'll just do like a zoom in.